Okay, so should we continue with our class? Yes, I had to make sure that everybody is joining. Everybody is joining and is enjoying our lecture. So we were talking about the hints with regards to feasibility study. As I say, right here, you just need to get whether this is bankable project or it's not bankable project. And if it's not bankable project, then you may not undertake the project. And if you find it is a bankable project, then you may realize yourself that you can run the project. So feasibility study is used to assess whether the project, the proposed project, is worthwhile to undertake or not. The feasibility study is designed to provide an overview about the primary issues related to the business or project idea. The purpose is to identify any myth that we have to, or break the issue that would likely prevent us from doing the project successfully. And that's why we need to do or to carry out feasibility study from that concept. We need to carry out the feasibility study because we realize it only through feasibility study can provide the information that are necessary for us to perform projects without realizing a huge loss. At least the shareholders of the project will be able to sustain themselves and get good returns in the project. So that's the mindset. We need to say what type of situations that are prevailing in that particular place where the project is going to be located. So you need to understand that. You need to understand what are the key challenges that we are going to face before we implement the project. It's the responsibility of to understand these before you get started. You should not get started without conducting a feasibility study. You must conduct a feasibility study. Realize the potential challenges that will the project from not sustaining it. The feasibility study. So business case, feasibility study, as I said, will look into the following areas: market analysis or the market issues, the organizational issues, the operational issues, and the technical issues, the financial issues. And then you conclude most areas that when you develop a questionnaire for yourself to start assessing these ones, they're important for you to carry out the feasibility study. It is necessary. Now, as I say right here, when you're developing the feasibility study, let me ask you, maybe this should be a question for yourself. Discuss what are the importance of conducting feasibility study. What are the importance of conducting feasibility study? You should know this, and therefore you need to make reference. You need to read by yourself. I cannot give you that one. You can understand by yourself. And there are so many people who are confused when it comes to business plan and feasibility study. You know, they get confused. And right, business plan is just for a business plan, a business, you see, and therefore, in here, for feasibility, you have to go to the field, assess the situation, and advise to undertake or not to undertake. But for business plan, this is just a plan. So, and you need to justify whether you should implement that business or that project, or you should not implement that project. Now, this is viable, not viable. So, and that's why you have to undertake feasibility study. And if there's any, oh, sorry. So some people want to join again. We need to invite them here. The people on the way coming to join. All right, all right, all right, all right. So you will see when looking at the key items for feasibility, as I said, for marketing, you will just go to the field and assess the market. You will assess the market. You will need to define. You will need to define the market, assess the situation. Who are the key competitors? Who are the key competitors? You see, and what is the market? How is the market look like? What is the situation of the market? You describe the situation. You describe the environment where the project is going to be located or expected to operate. You will need to do that. So the more specific you become in terms of defining the project itself, the better for yourself, the better for the management, the better for project manager, the better you can easily control. Is the market growing? Is the market growing? What causes the market to grow? You need to describe. Is the market shrinking? You see, or maybe is he expecting to stay at the same? So you need to analyze that situation by yourself. Is it worthwhile for you to intervene into the business? Is the market you have identified enough to make you worthwhile during the period of time? So these are the questions. So the more specific you become, the better decision or the well-informed you are going to be. And therefore it is important for any manager to realize that you needed to undertake, you needed to know before you commit large sum of money, you must undertake this feasibility study, and the market analysis can help you. Now, when you are doing the market analysis, you need to be well informed with the data. You need to establish data that will help you to make decisions. Where are you going to get this data? You can get the data from internet. You can get data from published statistics. You can get data from published reports or studies of any type. You can get data from reports of international organizations and government. You can get data. You can get data from industries. You can get data from companies and agencies. You can get data from journals. You can get data from researchers. You can get data from any type of publications that you find. It is important for you to try to link your project with those statistics. So you will need to know what is the current or projected demand for your products or the services you're about to deliver. You see, what is the current or projected demand? You need to know this. What are the targets in terms of market? Whom are you targeting in terms of services? What is the demographic characteristics that you have at the end of the day? So these are very important. What about the supply? These are things that you need to define. How many people are supplying these goods in the area? Describe them in terms of which strategy they use and which strategy you are going to use. What are the key competitors in the marketplace? You see, can you identify your new strategy that nobody can come and compete with you effectively. Or once you get into the business or the project, you will find yourself, you start and failing. You need to know it very early, and you must be unique. So feasibility study will give you information about that. But when you are making analysis, you must support with the table, figure, chart, and other sections that are very important for you to describe that phenomena very clearly. And the more you describe the market, the better for yourself. So you must know who are, what about the market share? What about the market share? How many people, how many are producers of the service? You see, and which area are they producing? What their capacity? What about their capacity? You see, so you analyze them very critically, so that you become more technical. Now, you will need, for example, right here, you may need to have a section where you will describe about the market demand forecast. And when let me invite some other people right here to come in our online class. You most welcome. Yes, most welcome. Welcome. Yes. So when you are assessing about the market, you see, you need to demand itself. You need to focus the demand. When you're forecasting the demand, you will need to check for the trend projection. You see, you need to check for the consumption level. There are different techniques that you may use to forecast the demand of the product itself that you are about to produce. There are several methods that you may use. The one, as I said, I've just mentioned, you can use the trend projection methods. You can use consumption level method. You may use end use methods. You may use econometric methods. You may use any leading indicator to forecast. You may use regression analysis when you are about to analyze the trend when it comes to demand. So if you want to assess and project the future, and that's very important. There's so many techniques that you may use to project that one. But once you get the projections, you must define clearly based on that trend. Maybe if you have used the regression to project about future revenue, then you must describe. And you know, you use projection. You can use regression to determine the future trend, to forecast the future. Or you can use the Excel function to define, to project the future variables, what will happen in 2040. So you can use that one if you want. So there are different techniques that people are using in terms of forecasting. Even if you want to forecast by 2060, what will be happening is up to you. You need to identify very clearly. So describe the project supply. What about the supply? Where are you going to get your input? Describe about competitors. You have competition analysis section. So you will have supply analysis, who are the key suppliers, which techniques they use, and the competition analysis. And you will need to describe that one. Another part that is also very critical is the organizational and technological issues. As I said, this is the second part for you to start analyzing. In here, you will need to get key assessments in terms of the organizational issues. How is this project going to be organized? What about the staffs that you have? How is that going to be implemented? Who are the main types of manpower that you have so that the project can be implemented? So you will need to define, the key questions that you find yourself having at the end of the day. What organization structure is the right one for your project? Because not all organization structure can work at the same time. No, it's very difficult for you to find. Who will serve on the board of director? You need to have board of director. What are the qualifications of board of directors? What qualifications are needed to manage the project? Who will manage the project itself, and how long? You see, what are the key skills that these people will have? What will be the chain of communications? What are the duties and the responsibilities of each person involved in the project? Do we need more training in this particular time? So when you will take people for seminars, when you will take people for training, you need to forecast these trends today for the activity that will happen tomorrow. Then the only way for you to do is by the time when you look at the feasibility study, it will give you issues. So in terms of technological issues, you will check for technical aspects related to production of goods and services. And in terms of from the project inputs, these will therefore be maybe the output in terms of changing the inputs into output, the mechanism there between the plant capacity, the output, the services. You see, do you have enough competent staff who can manage and run that project? What about the materials, the power, water, electricity, any other variable cost that we think will be popping in? The concept of technical. Do you have engineers to support the maintenance? Do you have mechanical engineers if the project is going to have mechanical engineer? Do you have those ones? What type of skills? Do they have experience or they don't have experience? These are things that when you run a project, you will need to encounter and explain about the technical issues of the projects. So you need to identify when are you going to do the maintenance. You need to count how many times in a year you will do the maintenance. Do you need, do we have any alternative technology that we can get it from local? These are questions that we find ourselves we can have, you see. And if we know about this, then we shall be able to say we have the technical capability. What about the size of the machines? What about the size of the machines? You see, is this technology cannot be found in Tanzania, or it can be found in Tanzania? So if it cannot be found in Tanzania, then there is need for you to get it from outside. But ask yourself, do you have the competency to do the maintenance locally, or you don't have the competency to do maintenance locally? So you will need to get some people from outside, from foreign country, to come and help you to do the maintenance, of which is going to be costly. What are the costs and benefits of you using the foreign technology for this one? Is it going to be affordable in terms of the project, or there is no affordability? So the project manager must be intelligent enough to develop all these arguments at the end of the day, advising the management. Now, those will be among the issues when it comes to the elements of the technological issues. Now, when it comes to financial issues, you will need to know what are the key costs. What are the key costs that the project will have at the end of the day? What are the key costs? What about the year zero costs? Year zero costs, these are startup costs. Initial investments, these are initial investments. What are the initial investments? What about the structure of your costs? What about the human resource that you have? What about the training? What about the operating costs, electricity and others? You will need to identify all these. You will need to identify, and this includes the startup cost and also the operating cost. You will need to identify from time to time, and the feasibility study. You will need also to do the revenue projections. And once costs are done, then you will need to also to project about cost, about revenue projections that will provide inputs regarding the inflow of your income. These will be the benefits flowing into your projects. And also, what are the sources of financing? And how are you going to get those sources of financing? Are you going to get from banks? Are you going to get from donors? Are you going to get from the IMF or World Bank? All those kind of things. You will see yourself. These are very important for you to start questioning yourself. And if you know all these forecasts, you will need to forecast, just like the way we have said in other classes through those videos. That if you did not attend, you can go through YouTube and you can read by yourself. And you will need to project at one particular period of time. What about the issue of profitability? How much is the total project profit that is going to be generated for the duration of the project? These are the questions that you will need to derive. How much will be the profit? You can't run a project without knowing the profitability. So long as it is a profit-making project, you must derive the concept of profitability. The only way for you to develop the profitability is for you to develop the forecasted income statement, the projected income statement. And that's the way we can get the profitability. So you get the total for all years, projected years. You get the total profit for those projected years. Then it will give you the profitability for those years. Then we can say we can run the project. So as a manager, you will need to do that. You will need, as I say here, you will need to measure the cost. You will need to measure benefits. You need to assess the profitability and the returns of whether the project is viable. You will need to assess what type of risks you need. You see, you need to assess the risks, thereby changing the scenario. And changing the scenario, you need to predict the worst of scenario and the better of scenario. And this is what we call it sensitivity analysis. So you will use the sensitivity analysis to develop all those kind of things. When it comes to worst scenario, what will happen? So you can pick some few variables, and these variables can be maybe price. Let's say price has decreased from that to that level. What will be? And this is worst scenario. You analyze the profitability, and when it comes to bad scenario, what if good scenario? What if the price has increased from that level to that level? Then you'll be analyzing the good scenario. So it is important for us to determine all those kind of things, risks associated. You can pick another variable that's very sensitive in your feasibility study. That is maybe if you are dealing with the exchange rates.
Yeah. Doctor, we don't hear you. Mnasikia huko? Doctor, we don't hear you.
You can't hear.
Your mic is muted, doctor.
Maiki kazima nakuta atake vurugu.
Kindly unmute your mic. Hata ski.
Tunafanya vurugu ndio maana amemute.
Doctor, kindly unmute your mic. Doctor, please unmute your mic.
We don't hear you.
Doctor, unmute your mic, please.
Doctor, we can't hear.
We don't hear. We don't hear.
Your mic is off.
Mtajua, poleni.
Dokta akasema mic na speaker. Mwambieni awashe.
Anafanya calculation doctor.
Hapo ndo tutajua sasa.
Mliopo hapo darasani mfuateni, yuko chini hapo. Mfuateni jamani.
Doctor, we don't hear you.
Grace, mpigie simu doctor. Grace.
Julius, hapokei simu.
Sasa tusikilize kitu hapa.
Doctor, your mic is off. Your mic is off.
Nachomwambia mtu aliyeko darasani ampigie mwalimu.
Do you have any question, folks?
You left us behind for quite long.
Excuse me?
You left us behind for quite some time. Your mic was off, so we could not hear.
Oh, my mic
You were
was
talking
off.
about-
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Why you did tell me my mic was off? You switch off your mobile phone? Okay, okay, okay. So, did you get what I was talking about?
Not at all.
You get it? But anyway, I will give you the
No,
reference.
really.
I will give you the reference. You will see the video. You will see the video. But basically, what I was talking about right here is I was putting emphasis in terms of the so-called feasibility study. When I was talking about feasibility study, I said it is important for us to measure all those costs. And when measuring these costs, you as a manager, you must be capable of knowing all the costs associated with the projects. And once you know all these costs, what are the startup costs for the project? What are the startup costs for the project? That is what we have said. What are the operating costs for the project? You must know as a manager, you must take your project under control. What are the operating costs? You see, manager, you must know about this. What about the revenue? You see, we have already said in the other class for revenue estimation. What about the revenue? What will be the sources of revenue? What about the modality of financing? So are we going to get the finance from banks? At what interest rates are we going to get? These are things that manager, you must develop thinking about it. And it's important for yourself and the future of the project. And remember, when you are estimating about these, we estimate based on the cost estimation process that we have already discussed in the other class, and that still hold until this time. And you will need to prepare costs, identify those costs in terms of human resource costs, in terms of equipment, in terms of transport, in terms of getting the total cost. At the end of the day, you can have your costs properly estimated. What are the construction costs? For example, if it's a project related to construction, what about the masons? How many days they will use to construct? What about steel fixer? What about casual labor? What about the quantity surveyor cost? What about the engineer cost? What about the manager's cost? Security guard, the storekeepers, and so on. These are things that you'll find at the end of the day you have in your project. So you can develop each estimated cost in terms of your sheet. You need to develop the cost category. That's your labor, the duration. It might be a month, it might be a year, and the project code, the name. You need to know the number. That's number one. The item, the skills, the man days being used, and the cost per man days. You get the total. So these are things that manager will need to get in terms of labor cost. When you want to analyze the labor cost, how much it will cost you, you will need to identify in terms of the skills, in terms of man days, how many days it will be used to perform the activity. In terms of cost per man days, you see, you need to know, and then get the total. When you have the total cost for those activities, then it becomes good for you to get hold for those costs at the end of the day. So you can go for material estimates. You see, name of the supplier, who will be supplying, what will be the quantity, and what will be the unit cost, what will be the total amount in terms of the material costs. You need to get these all at the end of the day. What about taxes? You see, and any other costs associated with the project? Do we have any audit fee? For example, we might be having some audit fee. What about those ones you need to encounter? If you have contingency, kindly explain. So you will need to get the total cost at the end of the day. What about the total cost for the project? You need to describe and get it, and it gives you the total picture regarding your project. As I said, you need to get the issue of contingency. Contingency can range between 3% to 7%. This you must realize. And your revenue must also be projected in terms of the quantity being produced, and also the price that you will sell, and you will use different techniques to analyze that one. Remember, you will have year zero. Year zero, it's very important. Now, for you, refer the other classes that we did in the appraisal. They are still holding until today for this class. When we are talking about feasibility study, they are almost the same. So I suggest you to keep on referring to those ones, and those lectures fit in here. And next time, I will tell you about the content of feasibility study, and we shall be able to develop one. And nowadays, even if you work in the government, you cannot run a project that has no feasibility report. You cannot run a project that has no feasibility report. You cannot get funding if you don't demonstrate feasibility report. You must produce a feasibility report. And for us, when we talk about this one, it is compulsory situation. It is compulsory to everybody. Everybody of you who is expecting to work in the government or to venture into private companies, for those profit-making projects, you must develop capability for you to develop feasibility study, you need to develop that one. Now, as I said, for next time, we will discuss about the content. You can also listen to some lectures online to get the feasibility study content that can suit your context. For today, at least, I wish you the best. If before I leave, do you have any question? Yes, kindly. You can come right here and also share.